Which crossing?
I understand.
I don't know about the cost and stuff. I mean, the cost is if you can't see and you try to get.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I want to apologize here tonight that meeting you had. I didn't walk out because you were talking.
Thank you for clarifying. I really have an instinct.
I had another meeting.
It happens every time though.
Not this time. I had another meeting at 6:45 and I was thinking, I know what he's gonna be thinking. But that wasn't the case.
That's okay. Okay. Thank you for letting me know.
Good evening, everybody. The North Ridgeville City Council Committee of the Whole meeting is now in session. Today is Monday, October 3rd, 2022. You could all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right, let the record show that all members of council are present this evening, and from the administration, we have Mayor Jeff Corcoran, Safety Service Director Jeff Roberts, as well as Squad Director Ryan Moriarty. This meeting was called to discuss T-136, an ordinance amending North Ridgeville Codified Ordinance Section 1650 as a result of recently passed state law concerning the discharge of fireworks. And I just thought I would start by providing a little bit of background information regarding kind of what has transpired, just so that we're all sort of on the same page. As you all know, earlier this year, the state passed new laws regarding the discharge of fireworks by property owners, consumer grade fireworks by property owners on their own property on or around certain holidays. And, you know, we had a committee meeting earlier this year at which some of the council members, as well as members of the public, expressed concerns over mainly safety considerations with regard to discharging, considering most of the neighborhoods in our city have, you know, houses that are very close in proximity to one another. In addition to that, several council members received phone calls and emails as well from concerned residents. Again, you know, reiterating the concern for safety and also the sort of the hassle, I guess, of having to go around and pick up the debris that falls in their yards, in their pools, on their roofs, and things of that nature. We later became aware that the state also made revisions to the Ohio Fire Code, and they added a whole section C to the Fire Code, which, at least in my opinion, I think addresses most, if not all, of the safety concerns that were raised previously. And in addition to stating, you know, things like that people have to be at least 18 years of age, they have to not be under the influence of drugs and alcohol, they have to be at least 150 feet away from spectators. It also adds that fireworks must be discharged at least 150 feet away from all structures, which would include homes, sheds, garages, things of that nature. It says fireworks must not be discharged in drought or hazardous conditions, and that those discharging fireworks must inspect the area and clean it up within 12 hours. We, in the city, there's an ordinance that was passed a while back that states the Ohio Fire Code is the fire code that the city follows, including any revisions or amendments that are made to it. So, you know, with all that said, and when you consider, you know, most of the neighborhoods in our city, Meadow Lakes, Waterbury, Ridgefield, Avalon, Hills Creek, as well as many of the other neighborhoods in wards 2 and 4, and I'm technically all throughout the city, there's, most of those do not afford a property owner the required 150-foot distance to be able to stay on their property and also still be away, 150 feet away from all structures. So with all that said, the current legislation before us, T-136, in a nutshell reads that in light of the state adoption of the Ohio Revised Code rules, as well as the revisions to the Ohio Fire Code, that some residents in our city who would be able to meet all of those safety requirements, the distances from other structures, would be allowed to discharge fireworks on their property, but most property owners in the city would not be able to discharge fireworks again because of the close proximity of their homes and sheds and other structures. So with that, I will open it up, I guess, to other council members. With that, I will open it up, I guess, to other council members at this point. I don't know if anybody has any additional insight or any additional comments or questions.
President?
Yes, Mr. Bruce.
First, well said. But you summarized it quite succinctly. I agree that the new fire code addresses a lot of the concerns that I had and many of the residents that contacted me about safety. So I'm very much glad that the state saw it fit to put some of the restrictions on it for the safety of those that have the lot sizes and can keep the fireworks not only structures but 150 people in the right weather conditions. They'll be able to do that, and I don't have any issue with safety. For me, I think I press it a lot of.
Thank you. Any additional comments, Mr. President? Yes, Mr. Higgins.
The only concern I have, did we get any input from police chief on this? Many times I'll get feedback that the officer said the ordinance is not enforceable, and they typically don't explain why. Did we get feedback from the police chief on this? Is it considered enforceable?
I did not personally speak to the police chief. I don't know if anybody else has, or if you can comment on the enforcement aspect of it.
Just like when the fireworks ban was in place previously, enforcement will be a difficult task. And so that's it. Okay.
Mr. President, in my experience with fireworks, before they were legalized, the police would warn the person. If they had to come back, then that was when they would issue a citation. But 9 out of 10 times they didn't have to come back once they warned them. It's my experience.
Mr. President, I recognize this is basically a complaint-driven type legislation.
Right.
And again, my concern is, will police consider it enforceable? And I guess I'll refer to the law director to the provisions that we're providing, the state has provided. Do you see this as enforceable?
I think it's problematic for any city in Ohio. I mean, they're gonna need to be able to, know the size of the lot or know where the location is, where the person is firing them off, have proof that they're doing it there, at a certain time. It's gonna be hard, but I guess it's something. I would just follow up on that. Now that everybody has an iPhone and a camera on it, it does make it a little bit easier than it would have been 20 years ago. Just because nobody wants to film such and such doing whatever. So that would probably aid in the enforcement of it. But again, it's still a hard thing to get any police department to do.
So prior to all this going into effect, as the mayor mentioned, it was banning throughout the entire city, regardless of what size lot you had. not necessarily making it orders, actually. I don't know, maybe somewhat easier if the lot size is clearly larger. Just all kind of know that it's, you know, where they have that, there's distances.
Mr. President, I have several people in my ward talking about this. I only know how the fire code allows us, you know, the 150-foot structures, which literally eliminates several neighborhoods completely in the city. You go on Google Earth and check it out, simply wouldn't be possible, no matter where you live on this whole neighborhood. And those people that have been talking to me are not someone who lives next to someone with 4 acres. Fireworks is someone that they're laying in their yard, and their mulch beds, on the roof, the pool, on their cars, things like that. So making this a little more stringent than we had in the past, and still adhering to what the state's doing, both including the fire code, seems to make sense to me. And then this will change when the fire code changes to allow any tweaks. As soon as I found out that the state had that distance requirement, that's what I've heard from my work.
President, I realize that, you know, enforcement is always going to be an issue. But again, it is driven by complaints. So those that are truly abusing, causing potential hazard, safety issues, those might be those are the ones that be contacted about. Again, there's only so many policemen, and we have thousands of people setting off fireworks. So obviously they can't be everywhere. But again, this is requirements. Placement. I think it'd be fairly easy to determine that 150 feet or less than 150 feet is going to be pretty easy to identify. Again, if they give a warning the first time, great. But again, I've had the same concerns many people in my ward over the years. Fireworks letting out loose on cars, setting them off in the street. Again, that's not allowed either. You can't do it on public property. This will be a better tool for the police and for the residents to understand safety issues and where they're going.
I had somebody mention to me that, you know, they live next to the property that's owned by their HOA. You can't go back there necessarily and light them off either. You know, that would provide you the required distance, but unless you have approval from the HOA, probably would stop on that. Are there any considerations to adding language to the legislation that calls out some of these distances? It would perhaps make it more clear to, you know, the reader, but as Councilman Winkle said, when there are future revisions, or if there are future revisions to the fire code, then we have to probably go back and address this again. So if just sort of leaving it to say that, you know, we'll follow what the fire code says, might be the way to go.
Yeah, Mr. President, I think that, you know, for some reason they find that they changed, let's say they changed fireworks law again and more aggressive fireworks, you decide to up the distance, then we automatically do that.
Does anybody from the administration have any additional comments or?
Make things simpler for the public. You might want to consider making it so easy for them, they can't get confused. You know, right now, we have legislation that says it's okay to set off fireworks, but subject to all the different rules. You did a great job of reading through the fire code. I'm not sure that anybody else will pick up the fire code before they set off fireworks. And so the question is, do you want to just ban them outright? And instead of allowing the handful of people that do have the proper distance, the ability to set them off. Just about Simpler is always better. Takes the guesswork out of things. And the rules are what they are. People know they have to stop at stop signs too, but they don't always do that. Or how about school buses? I could always use that as my example for it.
Mr. President, if I may, I think the majority, because we've looked at a lot of the cities in the Northeast Ohio area, I think the vast majority of them have gone out and alternative fireworks as a whole. There are some though that, adhere to the code.
Yeah, for me, I guess personally, my thought was this seemed like a sort of a compromise, the state allows people to do this. But again, within those certain safety restrictions. And rather than banning them entirely, at least again, my personal opinion would be that this seems to still, allow those that do have the property the opportunity to do it, and those that don't can't. So this
It certainly would be worth our while to try to communicate as well as we can some of the key points, perhaps, not in the legislation, but in the newsletter that goes out with the utility bill, with the website certainly. The next one, there are several different holidays that you can do this or near the holidays. So that, again, not everybody reads the newsletter. But at least you can point to it and say that, it was, make sure it's around holidays that it's allowed to make it prominent on the website. One of the first things that you see, just a reminder, fireworks cannot be set off within 150 feet of structure, or that might help. Again, not everybody reads the website, but there's only so much you can do. We certainly do that at least. Say that
I'm wondering, within the body of the first the lines, is it possible to add the also to the effect of also as state fire code? And then put the code number for the state in that body that they can look it up. Just so they don't just read this and say, "Oh, I can shoot off fireworks," because they don't go any further. I'm just wondering if the first portion of it we also state as restrictive by whatever the code is.
well, I think it is in here, is it not?
It is in here, but it's not the first lines.
Oh,
How
I
many
see.
people go past the first line?
Oh. So so it's in the fourth whereas statement, and you're just suggesting that people
Moved into say let's see, would be the second sentence.
Ally responded to these calls, how much does it cost the city for that? The police could be doing other enforcement. Thank you.
Anybody else who wishes to address the council this evening? Joe? You can state your name and address.
Yes, sir. Good evening. My name is Frank Toth. I reside at 3530. Under the fire code, we have this 150-foot restriction. And the fire code reads that no person under the age of 18 is permitted to handle or discharge fireworks. No person under the age of 18 can be within 150 feet of the discharge point of the aerial fireworks. So that leads me to the problem of enforcement. Are the police going to be responsible now to be checking IDs at the site where these fireworks are being launched? And also, the 150 feet of the discharge point of an aerial firework. Now, that would be difficult. You can look at it from a land-based perspective, but as soon as that shell is elevated, is launched, who is going to measure where that shell was when it detonated, as in respect to a spectator, which a spectator is defined in the fire code as any person other than a person who is directly engaged in the discharge of 1.4 G fireworks. So if my neighbor launches a shell off from the back line of his property, which would be 150 feet away, but yet it comes over my house and detonates, he is now in violation because I am technically a spectator and I am not within I am within that 150 feet radius that the law provides. So if enforcement truly is this issue where the administration states that, you know, people run when the police come, or they give them a warning and they stop, and, you know, 4th of July, it's been this way forever, as long as I've been alive. And there really, I personally don't have any issue with the 4th of July, day or two before, day or two after. You know, that's the way it's always been. But, you know, 3 weeks from today, okay, if I hear something that sounds like a propane tank exploding, I'll have to tell my wife, well, don't worry about that. Everybody's okay. It's just the Wally. All right. This is not, it doesn't seem to be congruent with the direction the city is attempting to navigate itself to, utilizing the One Vision project, where we're attempting to turn the community into a direction of a little bit more modern facilities, a little better, a little higher quality of living. I believe that this law or this ordinance as written is not congruent with at all. And finally, I would like to just read here that I have a list of communities in our area which have completely prohibited the discharge of fireworks. And those cities are Amherst, Avon Lake, Bay Village, Bedford, Bedford Heights, Berea, Brook Park, Brunswick, Cleveland, Cleveland Heights, East Lake, Euclid, Fairport Harbor, Highland Heights, Lakewood, Mayfield Village, Medina, Mentor, Mentor on the Lake, Middlebrook Heights, Newburgh Heights, North Royalton, Parma, Pepper Pike, Rocky River, Seven Hills, Shaker Heights, South Euclid, Strongsville, Talmadge, Twinsburg, Wadsworth, Warrensville Heights, Westlake, Wickliffe, and Vermillion. Now, out of that list, in our specific area, the only cities, to my knowledge, that are missing are Avon, which has gone ahead and followed the state law. They decided to go along with what our lawmakers in Columbus came up with. But the city of Elyria is the other glaring omission. However, according to a September 13th, 2022 article in the Elyria Chronicle Telegram, they are currently in the same state as you folks are right now, in deliberation as to how they want to tackle this law. The state of Ohio, representatives in Columbus, basically gave municipalities the discretion to opt out of this law. And I urge you folks to seriously consider your choices at this point. Thank you very much for your time.
I will say that I think in regards to your comment on the separation distances, it specifically does say the discharge point. So the way that I understand that is that they have to be 150 feet away from the point discharge on the ground, as opposed to, where it explodes in the air.
Mr. President, I talked to the state fire marshal people about it, that's how they explain it.
As far as the list of holidays, I think we just took what the state offered and just are kind of mirroring that. Is that correct? Yes. All of them.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mrs.
should we take some of those dates away?
I think we
Instead of
are.
the weekend before, the weekend after, can we, as city council, say, you can only do it on July 3rd and 4th?
We could. I believe that it's, yeah, I think they make, it says in there that local municipalities can make additional, accommodations with regard to the days and times. Which, as Mr. Phil pointed out, we did change the time. Instead of 4 p.m. to 11 p.m., it is 9 p.m. to 11. I think it's what we have in 136, right?
AM.
Oh, it's 9 p.m. I didn't realize that. Are you suggesting then that we should take some days out?
I believe that, like Mr. Tooth said, 9 full days of blowing out fireworks is crazy. I mean, I don't agree with the before and the afters on the weekends. I do propose removing that. And I think we do need to change the time from 9 a.m. to something more feasible, like 5 p.m. 6 p.m.
I would suggest maybe then if we're maybe just stick with what the state offered and just stick with 4 p.m. then. Change it.
What time is the six?
4 p.m. to 11 p.m. With the exception of New Year's Eve, you can go till 11:59 p.m. and on the 5th day of January, you are allowed to discharge them between 12 a.m. and 1 a.m. So basically, because of the way New Year's Eve celebrations usually happen, that would allow.
I'd also like
fire
to
them off
add that,
after midnight, essentially.
sorry, Ms. President, I got Labor Day weekend, I don't think I've heard any fireworks. I don't know if anybody else has issues with their awards on Labor Day, but I barely heard any.
If the council wants to make a motion to change the time to 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. Friday, Saturday, and Sundays before and after July 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 7th.
Was that a motion?
It was a motion.
So we have a motion to adjust the time frame from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. to 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. And also remove the Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays before and after July 3rd, 4th, 5th.
Just keep that we can do it July 3rd, 4th.
Correct. I know that previously we had, when we had our last committee, we had discussed adjusting our times as well to allow the, well, essentially the additional time for New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. That's something that we are interested in doing. Just leaving it as it is.
I would do it.
Any other comments, question? Mr. Ravens, were you making the motion earlier then to also rearrange the wording here to move that up?
Sure. Make a motion to, and according to the OFC.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion to amend T 136, the days and time restrictions as well as moving the UFC line up for the top of. So all in favor, say yes.
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 Opposed, say no. And then I would make a motion to send the amended version of T 136 back to council for consideration.
Second.
It's to reiterate, the motion was made by Jacobson, seconded by Whipple to send T 136 with the amended version of T 136 back to council. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. All right, so T 136 will move back to council for further consideration. And with nothing else on our agenda this evening, this meeting is adjourned.
Vice for the cats on my street, nothing but fireworks.
Oh, yeah, no, it was. Which is awesome.
She's out there.
Yes. How was it?
Jason.